Hey there, today I'm going to continue doing the tier list series with the 3 threats, where I'm joined by Finger Guns from the Rogue Agents podcast to talk about where we land on these 54 different characters, because there's so many. But before I get into the rankings, there are 2 things I want to go ahead and address, and will address at the beginning of every video, so if you've already seen this once or twice, go ahead and skip. I have gotten fancy with timestamps and stuff. But first is how we are using the S2D scaling. S-tier characters are characters that are too good. Characters that likely need to be toned down in some way or another. A-tier characters are ones that are strong enough to be easily splashed or always see play in their affiliated homes, but don't really need to see any balance changes. B-tier are solid characters that will see affiliated play or can see some splash play where there are synergies with particular leadership abilities, but really characters in this range are still in a really good spot and don't need any changes. In my opinion, at least. C-tier is then for characters who have reasonable play in at least one spot because of a very specific role or job. The characters here probably just need one minor tweak to be brought up into the ranks of an A or B. Minor in the sense of Iron Man's Repulsor Blast costing only 2 power instead of 3, kind of small change. Then D tier is for the characters that don't see the table that often and are mostly often seen for narrative-styled games, or maybe even a meme list. Now, that said, the gap from A to D isn't a crazy gap, and a character we list as D can absolutely come into a game and do as much, if not more work than a A-tier character, but I wouldn't mind seeing characters put into the D tier get a couple of tune-ups to have an argument to see them on the table more often. The second thing I want to address is that, yes, I know that tier lists are not everyone's favorite form of content. They don't require much time on my end of things for setting up or editing, and they're really just full of opinions that you by no means have to agree with. But at the end of the day, they are a great reason to also bring in other great community members to get their thoughts on different characters' values. They're also just kind of fun to make, and they are easy to produce when also editing podcasts and other videos that come out weekly. And while divisive, they are pretty consistently some of the most popular content in the gaming world. So if this isn't for you, I understand, that's fine. Leave a comment down below about what kind of content you are looking for, and I can either point you towards some of my other videos or podcasts that fit what you're looking for, or someone else in this awesome community who covers that kind of topic or information that you're trying to find. But please be respectful, even if it isn't for you, at least recognize that there are thousands of people who do enjoy these types of videos. So with that said, my name is Nate, and welcome to the Gamers Guild. Alrighty guys, and so here I am joined by the one and only Finger Guns, who the first time I met you, you had this wonderful Thanos face mask on at NashCon, and like that giant like toothy grin on that is just my favorite picture of you whenever I'm like, oh yeah, Finger Guns, giant Thanos smile.
It's so unnerving. I got to bust it out again for Nova this past time because they had a mask requirement, so fun times.
Hey, if you have a reason to break it out, like, absolutely. Cool, man. Well, if you don't mind, introduce yourself and kind of what you do for the community and all that kind of stuff.
All right, so I'm Sam. I'm better known as Finger Guns online, and my kind of contribution to this game is I'm a member of the Rogue Agents podcast, and I work behind the scenes for the online TTS league that we run a somewhat seasonal league. We're wrapping up our 9th season right now, and about to look at season 10.
Ooh-wee. I didn't realize there was not. I thought this one was 8.
It is 8.
Okay. I was about to be like, man, like I know I haven't been paying that close of attention, but
right. We're planning season 9 right now. We're wrapping up.
So 9 is on the mind. I completely understand. Exactly. Awesome. So we're going to dive in. But Sam has also requested a extra tier list feature that we're going to throw at you guys this episode, and that is just kind of like for some of these characters that have an extra cool factor, will do the normal ranking for like their utility and where they stand, but then they'll get a little bit of a bonus ranking of sorts.
Heck yeah.
Cool. And so we start with the core box, and then things got kind of shuffled out of order, but we'll just go with the order we have here. So first up is Baron Zemo. I am personally inclined to say A. He is kind of just like the perfect, ideal three-threat character that you could want for what he does.
I agree 100%. He is definitely an A character. And plus, you get to imagine all of the sweet Zemo gifs and memes when you put him on the table now. So,
Oh my goodness. Yes.
it's a big
I
time
really
win.
hope we get another Zemo down the line, whether that's leader of the Thunderbolts or something else. But the more Zemo memes I can have in my life, the better.
Amen. I would accept a Masters of Evil and or a
Mm.
like give me some leadership cards that can hit Zemo. I'd love that.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, give it like Enchantress, Executioner get thrown in that group, and Chef's Kiss. And I know that Will Schick would love to do it because he gushes over the Avengers Assemble cartoon and stuff anyway.
Right? Let's do
Uh, and then, unfortunately, next to Zemo, we have Crossbones,
it.
which is just like the greatest core box disparity I think that exists out there just about. I don't think Crossbones belongs in D because he does have some play. Sin kept him out of the D tier for me, so I'm okay with a C ranking. How about yourself?
I'm also comfortable with the C ranking for Crossbones. C for Crossbones.
You see, it just lines up. And I will say we're going to go through these a little bit quicker because I don't know if you guys counted yet, but there are 54 three-threat characters in the game now, which is absolutely insane.
That's so many characters.
It's so
And
good.
and growing, right? We just added 2 more with these last Hydra releases.
Mm-hmm. A couple more there. Then we get a month of
A couple more on
gigantic
Shield,
boys with 4 and 5 threats, and
yeah.
we'll see what comes next. We then have Doc Ock from the core box. And I want you to tell me what you're thinking, because I'm somewhere between a B and a C, and I'm really not sure where he lands.
I think that Ock kind of exemplifies the B tier, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. He is amazing affiliated. He brings a lot of tools to the table with a medium move and a medium base, but he also, has some drawbacks to him. He's not particularly well positioned above the curve in any way. But when you need an affiliated 3, and so playing Spider Foes is really the only place for him currently. I think that he sings there. He's
Yeah.
got the leadership, and I've had some games against Doc where he just rolls wilds into me all day, and I just
And then he just starts melting
realize
people.
how much I've underestimated this man. And the range 3 throw, like, he's got a lot of tools. He brings a lot to the table, but there are other 3s that, if you're not looking for affiliation, I think kind of jump above him.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair. Well laid plans is a fantastic tactic card that also should never be underestimated, in my opinion. I've absolutely just had games where I was winning, well laid plans got played, days 3 of my character's opponent just took over the game, and like, man. And then we get Iron Man, who had like the slightest of buffs, but it made such an improvement for the character as a whole, which is crazy to me. However, I still think he is B tier, mostly just because I don't see him outside of affiliation, other than he'll see some play in Shield, see some Avenger stuff. What about you?
I think he splits the difference between A and B for me.
Okay.
Uh, whether you consider a character that brings a tactics card or 2 to the table being a tax or a benefit to bringing that character, right? So you can see it as like, this is a tactics tax, or this is a character who brings another tool to the table. When you get him, you get something else. I think that Helios Laser is criminally underplayed currently, especially with some of the big boys that are out there right now. And bringing Tony unlocks that for you.
I am guilty of the underplayed crowd because I only play him in Avengers, and so like 9 times out of 10, I'm like, yeah, I'd rather have Ricochet Blast.
Oh, and he sings under Steve, and
Oh my
he's
gosh.
another like solid piece under Sam. Ricochet Blast has lost some value to me because of certain large
Certain
characters that
giant kitty
prevent
cat that's
rerolls.
probably S tier and needs some tuning down. But hey, what?
I don't know anything about that. It's
Not
fine.
at all. That's like 3 videos from now.
Yeah.
After Iron Man, we have the first what was S tier character that got bonked on the head pretty hard, Shuri.
Oh.
Where do you
Oh.
think she lives these days?
I put Shuri into the B tier for
Yeah.
me. She's a little fragile. I think that if you're running her affiliated A Force, affiliated Wakanda, and you're
Hmm.
maybe not looking at her so hard elsewise.
Yeah, her control got nerfed, and it needed to be nerfed. Let's be
Yeah.
clear. It needed to happen. She still provides rerolls. She still has a good bit of control element to her
Mhm.
character. So definitely doesn't need any buffs up, doesn't really need any nerfs down. She's right where she should be.
I feel like now that she can't push big boys away because of the size limitation on her push, she kind of pushes the wrong way. I like pushing the big boys away so that it was like, a pseudo stagger on them. And
Hmm.
now when I'm trying to, the smaller characters, I'm usually trying to take off the board myself. So just like plinging them with 1 damage isn't always what I'm looking for.
Yeah, depends on the list. She makes a pretty good web warrior or something like that. I guess
Yeah.
though the web warriors are pulling them in. And anyway, and then we jump completely out of order because I had to cut up some pictures to make them work a little bit better. And we have Heimdall, who I think goes into B tier for me.
Man, he's slipping down into C tier for me. I've been
Okay,
running
you know
him
what?
in
And
Asgard.
as you were the Asgard player, I'm going to take your advice. C tier. Tell me why.
He will be the first 3-thread Asgardian that I cut from my Asgard roster in the future. I haven't cut him yet. I still like him there. He opens up some neat affiliated options for them,
Hmm.
which is why he's kind of like he's like dropping out of the B tier for me. I think that he has good play in say like a Steve Avengers, where his
Hmm.
abilities are incredibly cheap.
Yeah.
But for Asgard specifically, right? So he's an affiliated character that is starting to lose favor for me in affiliation, and that's kind of the benchmark for dropping from B to C.
That's fair. Yeah. I think he definitely has play with Steve where things just get ridiculously cheap and stuff.
Right.
Man, just about everybody has a place with Steve because Steve's
Yeah.
leadership turns out really good.
In
Uh,
in Asgard with Heimdall, you have to basically pick one of his superpowers, and that's what you get to do with him that turn or that game.
yeah. And you hope that his builder is able to get back a little bit of power, so maybe the next turn he can do 2 things, but typically not.
Exactly. I mean, I've had games with him where I just forfend all day, and it's amazing. And he's dropping hot dice into stuff and slicing it apart before it gets to do anything. Like I once like dazed and then KO'd a Zemo on charges. Felt so good.
Nice. And we also then have Scourge. And Asgard aficionado, I will let you plug him in.
So Scourge is actually my go-to 3 right now. The six die builder or gainer, I guess, depending on what terminology you like to use.
Mhm.
And I think that just kind of puts him a cut above the way that his power generation works. He only has to attack once, and his throw or his spender are online, and that is just amazing to me. He's in.
So is that a B or an A kind of solid impact?
In my opinion, I think that Scourge is a B with his stocks rising potentially up into A, because the other thing his power generation does is that his too dangerous to ignore style bodyguard is always online.
Yep.
On his way up. Plus he's an S tier fun value character, similar to Zemo, because you get the behold my stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Man, I wish that card was just a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because, I want to play it so much. Make it a beam, make it a something. I understand, sure, that card plus Doom Prophecy, Scourge goes nuts, but, let's a 2-tactic card combo. Let the dude go nuts.
I'm here for it.
And next up, we have what I think is the next A-ranked character, and that is Spider-Gwen, a.k.a. Ghost Spider.
I'm with you for the A. She's amazing. She might be my son's favorite web warrior. My older son. We watched Into the Spider-Verse for Father's Day, and he definitely made a connection.
Understandable.
she's S tier in my heart now.
Yeah, no, Gwen is like in herself just such a lovable character in the comics and stuff. But on the table, I think she is the ultimate three threat control piece. A little bit fragile, but can also just like suddenly turn on a damage spike turn if
Oh
you
yeah,
have her set up as well, which is really nice.
she's mobile. You got to kind of play the game that Gwen wants to play to keep her
Hmm.
a little safe. If you can keep her safe for the whole game, you're probably doing. You're exactly where you want to be.
Yep. And then her packmate is Miles. And I'm comfortable putting him up in A as well, just because he's got a lot of tools that most lists don't mind having, but I can also see an argument for B tier.
I think he's in that similar like B plus A minus range for me. Like
Mhm.
I don't mean to just piggyback on you, but we got a similar read on the game.
It
So
seems
far as
like
this is
it
concerned,
makes these lists so much easier.
he could be splashed in a lot more places. And if anything, I think that the addition of the original Human Torch to the game maybe takes away a little bit of Miles' potential
Hmm.
splash ability. But he's still he shines anywhere that he fits is what I found with Miles, with his place and the stealth and the Venom Blast especially.
Yeah, Venom Blast is key. Human Torch only makes the impact on the asset tokens and not the
Mm-hmm.
civilians, which actually like ended up being a thing that my opponent didn't remember and super mattered in a recent event that I went to. So just the
Yep.
ubiquitous nature of his spender is very nice.
One last point on Miles, he has a real fun synergy with no matter the cost tactics card. So if you're doing stuff, if you're bringing some healing factor characters, or you're bringing a Hulk and you're bringing no matter the cost to get some extra value out of those characters, you can run Miles in that list pretty comfortably. He's another option
Mhm.
for making the most out of no matter the cost.
All right. Now I'm really curious where you rank this one because she's an A for me, but it sounded like Scourge was your favorite three threat Asgardian, and I'm talking like about Valkyrie.
So the decision tree for me playing the Asgard roster is usually, do I need is Scourge a liability, or do I need control? And
Hmm.
if I need control and a size 2 throw is something that I think is going to be helpful in that game, then Valkyrie gets the nod even over Scourge. But I do think that, again, going back to modification of dice, I think that it's lost some value, at least for me, whenever I see something that's a dice modification printed on, especially these like major dice mods, right? Like Baron Zemo's reroll any, and
Hmm.
now Valkyrie's like Warrior of Legend, where you're changing crits and wilds are changing phases of your dice, so it's dice modification. That loses some value into one of the biggest targets that I would want to send a
Hmm.
heat-seeking missile like Valkyrie into. So Scourge usually gets the nod for me on that, but no, she's firmly in the B tier, and definitely, I think she kind of dropped out of A or S for me with the November changes.
That's fair. Yeah, no, I think she still has some solid damage potential, but it's not quite as reliable as what Zemo's reroll any is able to accomplish.
No, the flurry change and the throw to three, I think, really
Hmm.
hurt her
Yeah.
splash ability, and just kind of her output in general.
All
Still
right.
solid though. Wouldn't drop her.
So I'm really curious on this one because this is my first of maybe like two S tiers in the three
Ah,
threats. Looking over, making sure I'm not going to regret this. Yeah, I'll say two S tiers that I would say. And I think he only needs the slightest of nerfs, but that's Winter Soldier for me.
he is an A plus character. I don't know if he's an S, because there's still lots of places where you maybe don't want that kind of output from your three threat. Like, it might sound kind of silly, but like I tend to look at affiliations like a hard scenario control web warriors as not
Hmm.
necessarily wanting to dish out damage to somebody, right? For them, they're looking at stealing objectives off of hard to kill models, and they're looking at a lot of kind of power starvation on their opponents to keep their superpowers to a minimum, their superpowers and spenders and anything they can spend power on. So I I think that Bucky's definitely an A. I think that the needle may have swung a little bit too far on him when they upped his power level in the November changes.
But all they
But,
did was give the dude rapid fire, which is crazy.
but I
And not
mean,
even guaranteed rapid fire. It's rapid fire on a hit.
he is an S tier character anywhere he finds a reroll, in my opinion. That's where he really starts to shine, is if he's triggering an offensive reroll. So like Guardians, I love him in. Shadowlands Daredevil, he's absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then
honestly, alongside Hydra, because you've got 2 and 8 reroll guys handing it out anyway.
Mm-hmm. I've really enjoyed him in Shield too. Just stacking the rebuttals attack with him and Fury Senior is so fun.
I haven't tried it yet, but I'm really excited to. I will say the one thing I think that, like, the only thing I think needs to get toned down is, because now he has the rapid fire, now he's actually seeing power generation, is I would make his Hydra tactics only like either only once per turn or only once per character per turn. So he's not able to do these like absolutely crazy things where he like bounces off of 2 people, get into range 1, gets off 4 rapid fire attacks, or his spender, which is 3 attacks in a row, for goodness sake, and then teleports back to safety or something like that. Is just downright absurd, and I think could definitely see a little bit of a drawback there. But other than that, I think he would be a fine A tier.
I'm always surprised when an ability does not say once per turn, and I think that kind of tells you how powerful something is in a lot of cases. And I think Hydra Tactics is no different. Bucky, I have definitely won at least one game that I thought I was completely out of because of Bucky, because of Hydra Tactics. So I don't know. Yeah. That makes me not want to change him.
All right. Next up, we have Proxima, who I feel like is just a very solid B.
Proxima's got some special space in my heart. I think that she's definitely a B. I think that she has a lot more splashability than she gets credit for. But I would still kind of put her in that same B plus, A minus tier, where there's probably still a better option if you're pulling out of faction. But long move, damage reduction, a teleport attack.
Yeah.
She can really get across the board and do some pretty amazing things. And she's got the same attack as Corvus. She just doesn't have the other accoutrements that put it over the top. But I mean, 5 dice physical pierce is still pretty nasty.
Yeah, absolutely. We then have Groot, who I also want to say is probably just B tier. He doesn't need any buffs. He doesn't need any nerfs. What they gave him in his toolkit, giving him range 3 attack, but reducing his healing capability. I feel like Groot's in a pretty good spot now.
I'll agree with you on Groot. Groot's in a good spot. Doesn't need to go up or down. Isn't really seeing play. Excuse me. Outside of basically being paired with Rocket and or in Guardians of the Galaxy. I think maybe he's got a couple of homes that could be explored, but he's just such a huge part of that power couple. And he opens up Deadly Duo. And again, this is one of those like S tier in my heart things, because you get to Vin Diesel and I am Groot and just say I am Groot like all game. It's fun.
Yeah, no, like you just like you don't say, "Oh yeah, Groot's going to advance to short." You just go, "I am Groot," and you just move the model, and your opponent right. Maybe gives you a weird look. Like, you know what? They'll get over it.
Yep. And then you I am Groot again, and then you're on the center line, and then you I am Groot, and you try to flip that trap. So it feels good.
Only do it with the traps though. Don't do it on like a deadly meteor. Groot's not so fond of that. Next up, we have
60% chance.
As long as nobody else is there, sure.
That's right.
We have Star-Lord, and I'll let you throw out the ranking for this one, because I feel like he could go A or B pretty easily either way.
I think that Star-Lord is an A since the November changes and could actually be splashed in a lot more places. His plucky attitude, his status condition spender can just do. I mean, it's wild, right? So you never know what you're going to get. But the hit and run, plucky attitude, and just kind of being all. He's a mobile character with flight, with a range 4 attacks. I don't know. I think that he belongs in more places. He slots into that A minus B plus for me. We'll give him an A just to be spicy here, because
I like it.
It's Peter Quill.
Yeah, who also, in his own way, gets the S
Yep.
honorary mention. I mean, Chris Pratt's amazing.
Dance off, bro.
And then we have our third three-threat guardian in a row, which is Drax, who unfortunately I feel like is C tier personally.
Drax was the only Guardian that I didn't run the last time I ran Guardians competitively.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he just needs like aggressive or just something to help him on the mobility, because he has so many other things in his kit that just work, but without the ability to get him there in a position to do stuff, and then like all the things he wants to really be able to do cost power, and so a slight bump up for Drax is all he needs to get into B or A, in my opinion.
I think so. Aggressive would go a really long way, both for him as a theme on the table
Mm-hmm.
and for mechanics, because he's I don't know, all the Guardians kind of have that S tier in my heart, tag to them just because they're so fun, and Batista's Drax is so enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. We then have Agent of Shield Black Widow, who I feel like is just B. She's fine as she is. She doesn't really need any tune ups or tune downs or anything like that. But I don't know. Do you think she belongs in the C tier?
I think that she is in the C tier, whether she
Mm-hmm.
belongs there or not. She's just one of those characters that doesn't get used even in affiliation more often than not. Because I mean,
Mm-hmm.
she's in 3
Yeah,
incredibly deep affiliations, right? With Avengers and A-Force and Shield. Now, like all 3 of those rosters are surprisingly deep.
yeah,
And plus, she's constantly competing with her two threat self as well in all of those same places. And unless you're a real big Black Widow fan, I don't think you're bringing both of them.
yeah. That is very fair. And her partner in Justice, not Crime, I think is the first character I want to put down into the D tier.
Oh my God, Hawkeye in the D tier?
Man,
No.
I have not found a place to love him in a very long time.
Well,
Uh,
woo, let me
this,
introduce you to a new age, Nate.
that is fair.
I think that Hawkeye is a B tier character. He is someone that you should be looking at if he is in your affiliation, and I think that his range 5 and his range 5 attack, range 3 place, and his like range 3 like long range counter attack that he has, or
Mm,
counter but preemptive strike, like that is absolutely amazing with Eye in the Sky, number one. So he has some real fun lines of play in Shield. But most importantly, the Avengers won every movie that Hawkeye was on their team. That is all.
the one time he was gone. All right, so I'm gonna bump him midway, meeting the C tier.
All right.
I would love to see him just get like some sort of attack consistency, even if it's just like a reroll only on attacks or something
The
like
attack
that.
consistency thing is real. That's a legitimate complaint.
Because like otherwise, it's like, man, why do I not just take Rocket instead? Rocket's more durable than Hawkeye in a lot of cases as well, which annoys me to no end because I have wanted to strangle that raccoon so many times on the other side of the table. It's like, oh yeah, I get cover. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's a time whenever you're playing Hawkeye where you basically have to be like, you know what? That's a superhero fight over there. I'm just a normal human being. I'm going to go sit on that point way over there. And if any of those fools in that superhero fight decide to get within about range 8 of me, I'm going to take a shot at them.
Oh man. Yeah. We then have the duo of Ant-Man and Wasp. And I feel like one belongs in A tier and one belongs in B tier. What about you?
I think that if we're talking about Ant-Man as an A tier character, I think that that is basically the truth. I think that he's another one that doesn't get splashed as much as he should.
Mm-hmm. I fully agree. Him in Guardians is an absolute blast if
Mm-hmm.
anyone out there hasn't got to try that yet. because 6 dice turn 1 with 2 rerolls is quite a punch if you
It
want to
is
wear.
quite a punch. It is quite a punch. The range on that is amazing. The zero cost place is absolutely insane for this character. And then on top of that, it's Paul Rudd, it's Ant-Man. He's one of the most fun characters to play on the table. Like he'll evaporate just as fast as anybody else, and the drawback of not being able to hold on to an extract is kind of unfortunate. I think that might be the only reason he's not an S tier character.
Mm-hmm.
But he's great. I absolutely adore playing with Ant-Man, but he doesn't. I don't get to play with him much, usually because of the rosters that I'm bringing. So I don't know. Maybe that makes me feel like he is a little lower than A, like in that B plus A minus range.
Mm-hmm. Just insert another tier of the A minus B plus characters.
Yeah,
because that would basically fill out as well as the A and B tier have so
yeah.
far.
Yeah, I think so.
So we've got Ant-Man at A. Do you think Wasp belongs in B, or is she more of a C to you at this point?
I think that Wasp is underexplored. I think that the long move and the attack that does not generate power are incredible tools. Plus, she has a terrain throw printed on her card. Like I just think that Wasp is largely underexplored, and maybe she hasn't found the right home yet. She's an Avenger. She's in A Force, and I think that's it for her.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's just the version of Wasp that we've got, but she's neat, but she's just as fragile as Ant-Man. Doesn't hit as hard. So she's easy to overlook, but I think she's underexplored. So I think she belongs right next to Agent Widow.
Fair enough. We'll throw her down into the sea, which is not completely unfair because she hasn't been seeing the table that much. I will say I really enjoy her in Magneto and Mystique's Brotherhood. She's got the mobility that Mystique's Brotherhood really enjoys.
Mm-hmm.
And then in Magneto, Brotherhood for the longest time just didn't have any energy attacks. They at least now have Rogue, but some more there doesn't hurt. She has a terrain throw. And Ant-Man and Wasp both have just a wonderful amount of mobility attached to their characters.
And I think that Wasp has actually been a member of the Brotherhood because she's been a mutant at some times. Like maybe not specifically this Wasp that we have in the game, but there has been a Wasp that is a mutant. So you can feel that a little bit.
Little shrug emoji there because I don't know. We then have Punisher. I'm curious on your thoughts on Punisher, because if Sooner was here, he'd be like in the S tier or something.
He's an A. The Punisher is an A tier character that is constantly chosen, just looked over and picked over, in my opinion. His kit is solid. The way that he synergizes, his abilities all synergize on that card with the way that they're costed. And he's a much more dangerous character than he gets credit for. I think his only real drawback is that his two drawbacks is that he doesn't have any control printed on his card. He's got no way to displace a model. Mm-hmm. And so once you roll those dice, that's your damage output for the turn. But his mobility and his output are surprisingly solid. And Blood Red and Personal is not just a meme. Like you can actually get some stuff done with that card if you play it the right time in the right squad.
Yeah, it is not a meme. I've gotten 3 victory points off of that at a local game night. Though at the same time, it's one of those it felt almost more like a win more situation because I KO'd 3 characters in a turn with it. So
right,
but yeah, I feel that. I personally have him at B just because there's so many places that he just gets picked over, not necessarily looked over. Mm-hmm. But I think he has significant play in Shadowland Daredevil.
Significant. Yeah, and I think he's good in Shield too. And he's got a few other homes where he can slot in pretty well. His going back to Blood Red and Personal, it is win more sometimes, but at the same its other use is for when you're down, 14-15 in a close game. Mm-hmm. And getting those 2 KOs wouldn't get the Kree Core off of Hulk. but it does let you.
Does score you those two
Yeah.
pivotal VPs. Yeah, that's
Yep.
fair. And then we have Taskmaster, who I think can go into C. I don't think he's quite warrants the D rating, so I'll stick with C.
That's fair. He's like off-brand vanilla ice cream to me. So we can say C tier. Like he's no Briars, but like he doesn't really do anything particularly special. But he's also just not going to like vanish off the board more often than not. If people go after him, he's got some tools. He doesn't like being thrown or having things thrown at him, just like any other martial artist.
I was about to say he doesn't like either of those things.
Right.
I feel like he's very much like Drax, where he just needs a little bit of movement help, and then he would be fine. Because his spender is one of my favorite in the games.
Super good. It's a super good spender.
Yeah. And then we have Crystal, who I think just a lot of these characters that have a C at the start belong in the C tier. What about you?
Man, what a weird coincidence. I think that Crystal has homes in Inhumans and in A-Force. I think that outside of that, she's got maybe a couple places where she can land and have good synergy with the rest of the crew. But she's either a battery for Inhumans or she's a funnel where you're moving power over. So she's dropping 3 attacks around. I also think that her long move for special delivery on a 3 threat in A-Force should not be overlooked. But I do kind of think that she's in the C tier still, nonetheless.
Yeah, I think I'm not even sure what you would. She's like C plus B minus kind of territory to me, because like she needs just like a little tweak, like Iron Man's 1 power being reduced kind of a thing. Like I think if her elemental onslaught, is that what it's called?
Sounds right. The one where she gets to attack with an attack.
Make the extra attack. I think if that cost 1 more power, her entire character just kind of suddenly comes alive, much in the way that Iron Man, where just like that 1 power drop suddenly like.
Oh yeah, because then she can
really
turn
good.
herself on at that point, because she can blap blap and then use that ability if it was only 1 less.
Yep.
Guess the playtesting works.
Probably. And then we have her good friend Lockjaw. Where do you think the puppy dog goes?
Weirdly enough, I think that he's in the same tier as Crystal. He's right in that B and C range. Which I would add one more thing to this kind of like B and C split range, is that this is a character that is like definitively a B if they line up with your game plan.
Mm-hmm.
And they're definitively not the best option if they don't. So there are rosters and places where Lockjaw just fits, and he's absolutely amazing. I wouldn't even want to leave him home, let alone, not have him in the roster.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also a dedicated support piece with surprising output and surprising defense, because for some reason, nobody, I don't know, my experience with the dog is that I roll damage into the dog and it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
And he rolls damage back at me and it's like 5 hits with the bleed, like every time.
Yeah, no, it's definitely one of those moments, though, where it's just like, oh, you just gave the dog that likes power more power. Appreciate it.
Exactly. And, one other thing about this B and C tier character range is that if they're in the C tier range, like for me, it's like if they're also suffering from being kind of obscure characters more often than not, where it's like you're not super familiar with this character, or if you are, then like they're closer to that B tier. But if you're not, they kind of start to slip, because you're like, well, I have no connection to this, so I don't really have a desire to make it work.
Yeah. No, and again, looking over just kind of like the characters that we have up here so far, C tier hardly means unplayable. It just means that they have like those specific places. Still encourage you to play them, test them out in other places, and you might find great success where one of us have not, because we haven't had we do not have the hours available to us to just play this game with every single possibility, now that there's 54 freaking 3 threats alone.
I agree. And
but just kind of.
if Lockjaw or Crystal's your favorite character, put them on the table, and you're not going to regret it. Like it's still nothing like that.
Yeah, they're not normal Daredevil.
I've gotten rocked by normal Daredevil on multiple occasions, but that's definitely his reputation.
Yeah, I love him on Separation Anxiety, though. Let me just say, absolute
that's
blast.
Fun. That's fun.
And next up is the other character I think is S tier. I think she needs some changes, and that is Black Cat.
Ooh. I think that Black Cat is kind of the definition of an S tier character right now. Mm-hmm. If you're looking at a 3 threat and you are just trying to bring the best, or a specific role player that is best in class, you are looking at Black Cat. There are rosters where she pushes out affiliated 3s just because of what she brings to the table. So I think that's kind of the definition of an S. And yeah, I would agree with you that she is in that S tier. I don't know if she needs changes. I feel like an action steal on her would really just like now she doesn't see play.
Yeah, it would absolutely neuter her, except for maybe Web Warriors, where being a stagger bot is enough.
Right.
Personally, I would love to see one of two things: the magical words once per turn,
okay.
or on the steal, or I would like to see her steal become a Voodoo X cost. Where, like, stealing off of Toad, sure, she can do that for 2 power, because, like, it's Toad. But, like, you try to steal something from Thanos, that's going to be an 8 power heist right there. Kind of a situation.
That's interesting. I hadn't really thought about those kind of a change for her. To be perfectly honest, I didn't realize that her steal wasn't once per turn. I've never really been in a situation where it wasn't more important to just, like, grab that one thing and then get as far away as possible.
Yeah, it's more of the, you've got 2 hammers, I'm going to grab 2 hammers and then away.
I can look back and I have done it. I've done it more than once on a turn. I never think of it being something that you can do more than once in a turn. So yeah, we'll give her the S.
Yeah. Need some help. Or some reverse help. Needs a little bit of a nerf bat. Hopefully not too hard whenever it comes around. But
golly, I don't know if you can. Like, you take off the no rerolls into her. Like, I don't know. Good luck, design team.
Yep.
if that's even on your radar. Yeah, exactly.
Next up, we have Sam Wilson, Captain America, who I think is a solid A tier character.
Sam Wilson is an S.
Ooh.
S for Sam. Sam is so incredibly, ridiculously good. There is so much text on his card, and the more you read, the better he gets. He's a little bit fragile. He does not get splashed anywhere near as much as I think he should be. But I think that he gets the bump to S for a few reasons, right? Not just the text on his card, but also Avengers is a very deep roster. He has his leadership is hands down top 5 in the game. Like, there's not even a question. I think that you're hard pressed to not say that it's top 3. That is, and he is still splashable. So he gets an S from me. Not just because his name is also Sam, and not also because, Anthony Mackie is just killing that Captain America role.
I'm gonna claim Sam bias. I'll put him at the tippity top of the A.
All right.
I think when you factor in that leadership, there is definitely a stronger argument for the S. I don't know what would if we say S, what is the thing that you would like to see toned down on him?
The thing that I've always said about his leadership is that I have never understood why it wasn't pick 1. It would have been good enough to probably still be top 5 because it would be so flexible. But if there was one thing that I would look at, it would be the push on his shield throw. That is kind of silly, in my opinion, considering Steve Cap is a super soldier. So he should be able to throw the shield harder. Mm-hmm. So if anybody was going to get a push on their shield throw, it should have been Steve, not Sam.
Let's not give Steve a buff here either, because he needed it at this point. he got his buff and he worked out. He's good.
Oh no, he's doing just fine. I mean, that's another place where Black Cat really shines is under Steve. So
Yeah, and again, that's where the X thing would fix that problem.
yeah, that's right. No more.
Uh, Next up, we have War Machine, who I think is just a solid B. There's not really he doesn't have a great role in the current meta necessarily, but I feel like he's still also just a nice solid damage reduction, solid defenses, can have some decent output on damage kind of character.
I love me some Rhodey, but he's a C character for me. He's one of the I'm looking at him kind of last, even in affiliation.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the shift away from all you've got and field dressing and some of the tools that
Mm-hmm.
made him really shine have disappeared from his arsenal, unfortunately.
Yeah, beam. You know, the beam team is dead. Long live the beam team. But at the same time, the 5 dice physical beam, no real capacity for mods. It's not the same as it used to be.
That's fair. Now, what do you think about Storm, though?
I mean, Storm has to be a B
Mm-hmm.
because you have to bring her. you're kind of just stuck if you want to play X-Men. She's your best option. She's a 3 threat. She's a B. I'm not putting her anywhere outside of her affiliation. And by
That's
her
fair.
affiliation, I literally mean her leadership.
Yeah, like you don't bring her alongside Cyclops. You don't.
Yeah. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like with Sam. Like I see Sam as an S tier Avenger, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe an A tier outside of affiliation. I would say that Storm is like a B tier X-Man Gold leader and a C tier outside of that.
You know what? In that case, I'm going to put her in C tier because I think, like, keeping leadership aside, because I think that's in large part what Steve kind of suffered from before he
Sure.
got his buff. And so I think it's fair to say that like Storm needs something else to
There,
help her
there,
shine.
I mean, golly, do we drop her all the way down to D then? So, I mean, I played a game with her last night where she got some hot dice at the right moment and just took a blade off the table, and it felt amazing. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, the 3 other attacks that she had that game did nothing but drop a shock on someone.
I'm going to leave her in C because I think she actually has some sneaky good play in A Force when she can get funneled some power.
That's fair. That's fair. We'll call her a C. I don't know, but if we're saying that D is where characters need changes, I'd love to see her dice boosting come down at least one
Oh
energy
man,
cost.
that's so tough because she's got the area and the beam, and you don't want to make that so easily accessible. But maybe I don't know.
Yeah, we'll call her a C. That's fine. I'm not going to fight for it too hard.
That's fair. And what about the Beast?
The Beast is a B for me. B for Beast.
Yep.
He,
It's funny how that
he's
lines
not
up for everybody except Captain America.
right. Well, he's got an A in his name now. Beast is
True.
good. Beast is definitely someone that I am looking at in affiliation. I am not really looking to splash him, but similar to Doc Ock, where he's got the medium move, medium base, brings tools in affiliation that, it's not that he does them the best.
Mm-hmm.
It's that he's affiliated and brings a similar tool set.
Yeah. Now, Beast has a lot at his disposal, more than I kind of recognize at times. His only real weak point is that energy defense that can let him down. But aside from that, he's in pretty good shape.
And the wild place on his builder.
Yeah, that can be awkward. It can be great. It can be really unfortunate. That's an interesting one all its own. Mystique, I think is A tier. I feel like there's maybe arguments for S tier because of deception, but as a whole, I think A tier is a good spot for her.
I think she's at the top end of the A tier. I don't think that she has that ubiquity that an S tier character brings to the table.
Hmm.
But Deception is an amazing card. The fact that she lets you kind of supersede an entire game mechanic in reactive cards and superpowers during her turn has some really amazing instances of application in the game. And I think that, how about this? So Mystique is S tier in the right hands, and A tier kind of just across the board.
That's fair. I like that. So if C tier is where characters just need like either like a minor change or they have the right home, but something would be nice to get them up to the B and A.
Mm-hmm.
And D tier is where there's some significant things that need to go on with a character card.
Sure.
Where do you think Deadpool lies in that?
I think that Deadpool is, in my opinion, honestly, he's at the upper range of the C range
Really?
for me.
Okay.
I don't think that he needs very much. He suffers from being a 3-threat option in a very deep affiliation in Avengers, right? Like, in what world am I bringing Deadpool as an Avenger when I have so many other 3-threat options?
Mm-hmm.
And then his other affiliation is X-Force, which is somewhat maligned, if you will, just kind of in general.
Poor Dizzard.
And
But yes.
I think that I wish that Bang was maybe an automatic rapid fire for the first one with a chance towards the third. I think that that would go a long way to putting Deadpool much closer to the B and A tier. But
Yeah, I would even be okay with like hit on the first one, hit wild on the second one, kind of a thing where like it's not, you don't want him getting off 3 pretty consistently, especially since he has that reroll already.
mm-hmm. And
But
I think
yeah.
five health on his healthy side would also be a major difference maker, like make him a 5/6.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some 6/5/3s, so I don't see why
Star
you
Lord
couldn't have
is
a 5/6. Yeah, yep. So just flip him around. So is Valkyrie, like just, and Scourge. Scourge is 6/5 too.
Yep, and Heimdall, freaking Asgardians.
I mean, they're godly, so.
Looking at another X-Force member, we have Domino, who I feel is pretty safely in A tier.
I gotta put Domino in the B tier just because
Ooh.
I don't really reach for her out of affiliation. I think that she's very solid. I think she's an amazing character, but she kind of suffers from the same thing that Punisher suffers from, in that she doesn't have anything, no displacement, no ability to like push that last point of damage through. You roll dice and you hope for the best.
But we have Punisher in that like A minus B plus tier. So is that where you think Domino would safely live then?
We
Or do
can
you
put her
think-
there. I think, honestly, I still just think that she's a B because she doesn't have the mobility that Frank has. Frank
Mhm.
has that extra little bit of mobility where he can shoot twice and then move to safety or to scoring.
Mhm.
Where she's got to just stand there. If she's shooting twice, she's just standing there, which also means that you have to take a turn off with Domino from time to time
Mhm.
and just get her into a spot where she can get some work done.
Yeah.
So she's, I know her dice are higher quality than Frank's, but Frank's spender is still like his spender and his mobility give him the edge, in my opinion.
Okay. I'm a dice quality person myself. I love my rerolls. I love my modifications. And the fact that she just
Right.
like, hey, you're hexed when I'm attacking or defending against you is some
It is
real
nice.
nasty stuff.
Her survivability is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So we can settle on the AB for her. That's fine. I'm fine with her being an AB.
We'll say AB for her then. We then have Moon Knight, who I think is anywhere from B to C.
He's not a D.
He is not a
S.
D. Do not malign him as a D.
No. A. I mean, if you roll enough crits, he's definitely an A.
Anybody rolls enough crits, they're an A.
I have had some really fun experiences with Moon Knight, but I think that he's looking more like a C the longer the game goes on. The his survivability has been an issue for me once they
Mm.
kind of penetrate the stealth range. I haven't been able to get as much out of him, and he will just disappear suddenly. I mean, he's basically as survivable as Gwen is
Yep.
without her mobility.
Yep. And he has stealth, so in some ways even better than Gwen. But
Mm-hmm.
his damage output can be really nice, whether it's just the range 4 rapid fire that he has going on,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. He still gets access to the all webbed up turn. So again, because we have a significant number of characters stacking up in C, do not think that and think, oh man, these characters, like, these are the characters I don't want to add. It's not so much
Right.
that. These are just the characters that you want to add in the right places. Make sure that they're being played in the right homes.
Mm-hmm.
Web Warriors is one of those places. Midnight Suns is one of those places, which are granted affiliated and stuff, but yeah.
I, I can go B for Moon Knight as a web warrior. I think that he's probably even in Suns like stretching into the C range, and then
Mhm.
just unaffiliated. I'm just not looking at him.
Yeah.
I'm looking at somebody else, like Punisher or Domino, if that's what I'm looking for, or Mystique.
Yep. The next up, we have the 2 heroes for hire. I think one is A currently, and the other is B currently. What do you think?
I think the heroes for hire are both A's. I think that
Both A's.
they're just different A's. I think that Luke Cage is the more dependable of the two,
Mm-hmm.
and Iron Fist is the more dynamic of the two. But being able to run both of them with the Heroes for Hire card gives you so many options. So I kind of see them as a package, kind of like I tend to look at Rocket and Groot, and to a lesser extent X-23 and Honey Badger.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. I used to, because the meta changes, and so where you
Mm-hmm.
rank people, I used to have Luke Cage in my Adventures roster. I'd rocked him at Adepticon. He didn't really do much aside from find a scroll and then run to the side of the board one time, unfortunately. But what do you do against Black Order? Uh, but now it's currently swapped where, like, Iron Fist is my heroes for hire because there's so many more big threat characters, giant kitty cat, that his activation ability on his spender is just such more of a threat right now compared to what Luke's durability kind of offers to me right now.
That's fair. I really like again the no matter the cost uh, usage. I think that Iron Fist has some really interesting no matter the cost plays these
Mhm.
days. That's a really interesting exploration that people have discovered somewhat recently.
All right, that's fair. We then have Mysterio. This is a character I honestly have not played myself, so I'll let you determine his fate.
Oh man, I'm sorry, Quentin. I think that Mysterio is C slipping into D range.
Oh wow.
The short move on a small base is difficult. The fact that his attacks just line up with his stealth range largely, and while I really like his spender attack,
Hmm.
I have found that it's almost always better to just double move away and save that power for traps. His traps ability is great. Like, don't get me wrong, his power generation is cool. I just think that he needed something else, a medium base, a medium move, something that
Yeah.
that he needs help to really see the table more than he is.
Yeah. Just one minor tweak is probably enough to get him there.
Mm.
As is with probably the next character, Magic.
Oh, I see. I really like Magic. Magic is a convocation B for me,
Hmm.
and probably a C otherwise. I think that she's actually got some really interesting lines of play, especially if you're bringing her tactics card.
Hmm.
And I think that she really helps a convocation roster, squad even, really sing the way that her Mystic defensive Pierce works. I don't
Hmm.
remember the name of the ability, but just being able to kind of put her out there towards the end of a round, the turn before you're going to do an Ironbound Books. And then
Hmm.
she's incredibly survivable on an Ironbound Books turn.
Hmm.
And then as the game goes on, she's usually one of the first characters to get you an Ironbound Books back if you're not running grunts. So she's definitely got a role
Yeah.
for me.
Let me first say, Magic is like one of my top three favorite mutant X-Men characters. Not like in the game, just kind of like period. So when
Yeah,
she
same.
came out, I was like, oh my goodness, like deep cut, but not that deep of gut, but like still, I love it.
Yeah.
But she's super fragile. I think she is in C because she does play so well with Convocation. But outside of that, she's really just not seeing a lot of play. You can play her; she can still be fun. I have done it myself, but just be aware that she is a pretty fragile piece and can get gunned down pretty easily outside of Convocation.
Yeah. I think that her range 4 attack is something that you have to leverage if you're
Hmm.
playing her. You have to learn how to leverage that range 4 attack and get her limbo step lined up. And
Yep.
she's another one similar to Mystique, where if you're bringing her, you're bringing the tactics card that she comes with, and the tactics card keeps her, you know, out of the low end of the C range for me.
Hmm.
But even in X-Men, I'm not super excited about bringing Magic. I want to
Yeah.
bring her in Convocation, and that's unfortunately about it.
Yep. Next up, we have the Spider Foe duo of Craven and Lizard.
I still think Lizard is an A. My jury is out on Craven.
I,
I really don't know. B? No,
I'm fine with a B. Any character that has like just the innate reroll for some consistency. I think Craven does
mm,
really well as a that like final affiliated piece that Shadowland Daredevil needs.
that's right. Yeah, that's interesting.
He's not as interesting in Kingpin's Criminal Syndicate, but I think he also makes a pretty good Spider Foe. As for Lizard, yeah, I think he is the epitome of tanky boy for the three threat slot that also has control elements. There's not a lot to hate on Lizard.
No, like his output isn't maybe amazing, but
But it doesn't
I
have to be when you're a
right.
super durable mobile character. Like
Exactly.
he's fine. Then we have Gambit, who I think I'm okay throwing in the B tier.
Gambit's a B. Gambit was one of the last cuts from the current X-Men Brotherhood roster that I'm working on, and he was a very difficult cut to make because I really wanted to bring him. He
Mm-hmm.
just didn't have all the tools that I wanted to in my specific build out. If I wasn't trying to run X-Men and Brotherhood together, which kind of seems weird to say because he has both affiliations, but if I wasn't trying to run them together, he would have made the cut into either roster if I'd taken out the other team.
All right, I like it. So now I'm going to hit you with two, and I think out of these two, surely you'll agree with on one of these going into the D tier. Who do you think I'm about to bring up?
Oh my gosh. I have no idea, in all honesty.
We have Sin and Viper.
Oh, oh, that's a. Mm, that's tough. I don't think either one of them are D tier for what that's worth. I think that Viper is underplayed, and I think that Sin is better than she gets credit for. So I feel like either one of them could be put into the D tier by someone doing a tier list,
Mhm.
but I don't know if
But
either
not
one of
this
them
day.
belong there. Yeah, like not from me, not this day.
Oh man, you know what? And maybe surprising some people. I think Viper is a C. I think she's a perfectly fine character, and it just absolutely sucks that the two places she's affiliated, Baron Zemo is also affiliated.
Right? Like, yeah, and in one of those, so is Mystique, right? So she's just got stiff competition,
Yeah, like
and I,
very tough competition for the three threat slot, especially for one that's really just focused on damage output and stuff. And
right,
that's going to happen when you get into these wider affiliations. But like, yeah, long move, with some extra mobility. Like, oh yeah, that's great.
Hmm.
Zemo's got extra consistency though. Mystique has her unique stuff of no reactive abilities, not to mention
Hmm.
deception.
Hmm.
Sin for me is borderline D. I would not mind seeing a pretty significant overhaul on her card to make her do something else, because she would like I can't even bring her in Shadowland Daredevil Criminal Syndicate for me.
I so this is interesting to me because you said that Sin kind of pulled Crossbones out of the D tier,
Yeah,
and
that's fair.
so I think the hardest thing, there are two things that I find difficult to swallow about Sin. One of them is that her leadership is either broken or blank, that there's no middle ground on it
Hmm.
because of the basically 50-50 roll. So either the 50-50 roll does nothing and it's like she didn't have a leadership this turn, or you're literally like forcing people to drop things or pushing them away from objectives. Like it's after scoring, but like that can be, when that lands, it can be like a stagger, especially if you're set up that way with the extracts or secures that you're running, like against like flip secures and things like the Kree core. It's like being staggered almost,
Mm.
and that that's that's rough for me because there's no way to really balance that,
Hmm.
and there's no way to know which one you're going to get on any given turn, which seems really thematic for what I have read about this character. But the 4 health is where it really gets hard on that healthy side. The fact that she's got the same 4-6 stat line
That Deadpool
Deadpool
has,
has. It's
but without
just
the consistency to help back it up.
right, and no access to exceptional healing,
Yeah,
and
no
it's just
healing
like
factor, and just all of it.
So I don't know what Sin needs besides maybe a little bit more consistency, but I've had great games with her running like just wide cabal,
Hmm.
a year ago now. So it's not like it's anything in the modern meta, but she does tend to just kind of disappear a little too easy. But I think Viper's maybe got new legs with Hydra, so we'll see.
Man, it's tough even now, because that's what I thought. I was like, all right, Strucker, like she's got all those different and like different status conditions to give out. Like
Mm-hmm.
maybe she'll have a place, but it's like cool. So I start with Strucker, Zemo, Zola. That's 9 threat.
It just fills up so fast.
And then it's like, oh, okay, well, like maybe we'll throw in a Crimson Dynamo for a solid 4 splash or something. And then you're like, okay, well, I've got another splash slot. Oh, you know what? We're going to skip
Right.
ahead real quick and talk about an absolute A tier character. If you say otherwise, I don't know what to say. And that's Hood.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Hood's a borderline S for me.
Hmm.
I think that he definitely gets the nod if you're running one of his affiliations. Like you've just about got to be looking at Hood,
Oh, yeah,
and
easily.
he is so incredibly splashable. He doesn't belong everywhere, but he does definitely like that heal on some big boy squads. That heal under Kingpin leadership can
Hmm.
just be absolutely incredible. And now we're seeing a lot of characters that are immune to bleed coming into the game, and
Yeah.
that just kind of doubles down
Heal
on
up
his
some
value.
sentinels with your mystic powers.
Right? It makes no sense. Like he's a hell of a mechanic, I guess.
Yeah, I think Hood is a pretty easy plug in a day. Very
Yeah.
solid. Whether you swap to his other side for his nasty spender, or you
Mm-hmm.
keep him for his mystic rapid fire attacks, like Hood is just very, very good.
One thing I
Uh,
would say about Hood is that you really want to, if you're going to play Hood, you want to play some games with Hood. Don't just throw him on the table thinking like, oh, this A tier character. Nate said he's an A tier character. I'm going to put him in my roster for the tournament on Saturday. Like, no, you want to play him because he's got really fun and interesting lines of play too, which is another reason that he's in that A to S for me. So once you
uh,
know him, crazy things you can do with him.
yeah, that's fair. That is a very good point. Not all of these all of these A tier characters deserve to be A tier, but they are not all plug and play A tier.
Yes.
Like the same thing for Gwen is another great example of a character that you want to get some reps in to
Mm-hmm.
understand how nasty she can be in the control game, but to really figure out that economy for her is big.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Miss Marvel, who I'm really close to putting into A tier personally, but I think is at the very least very solid B, edging up on that B plus A minus tier that we have kind of made up.
I am perfectly comfortable putting Miss Marvel in the A minus B plus tier. I think that she's similar to the characters that we've said. Like if she fits the theme, then right. Except instead of being a B and a C, like some of the other ones, where it's like if she fits the theme, then it's a B. If it doesn't, then it's a C. She's like
Mm-hmm.
if she fits what your roster is trying to do, she's an A, and she's exactly who you should be bringing.
Mm-hmm.
And if she doesn't, then she still has some very interesting tools that give her a lot more splashability than I think she's seeing.
Yeah. And something I'm just going to say real quick, because I didn't realize it until a few months ago when somebody else told me, so I'm just like spreading the gospel. Smash with her is stupid good.
Yeah.
Because
So
it's like, oh yeah, she
yeah,
becomes not size 3, but size 4.
right.
So then it's suddenly like, oh yeah, here's a 8 dice strike that has a range of 3 that has like what 3 or 4 rerolls attached to it.
Yes.
It's real
Absolutely
good,
amazing.
and she
Absolutely
has a
amazing
throw,
character.
and no, very nice.
Yeah. And she also, one of the things that I really like about Miss Marvel is that the way that her tactics cards work, she kind of she brings some unique synergies with characters that make both the character that you're pairing her with better and herself.
Mm-hmm. Not just a buff to one, but a buff to
Right.
both is really nice. Next up, we have Quicksilver, who I think is just solid B. He doesn't need any changes in my mind, so he doesn't need to go down into the C tier. He's not being splashed everywhere or anything crazy like that. I think he's just a kind of epitome solid B for fast, little punchy, but mostly just fast.
Yeah, I'm with you. I feel like B tier characters are, they belong where they belong, and he belongs with his affiliations and does a great job. Fills those roles really nice.
Yep.
Slips in a couple other places pretty easy too.
Now, it sounds like you've had some experience with Convocation. Is that right?
I have. Convocation is one of my favorites.
So I'm going to let you tell me where Clea and Mordo belong because I don't know.
Oh man! So my Clea experience is very limited because usually she winds up competing with Magic and Mordo, and
Mm-hmm.
I tend to lean into Magic and Mordo for that role. I think that Clea's got a lot more game than she gets credit for, and in the limited amount of games that I've played her, she's actually performed surprisingly well.
Mm-hmm.
She just, with the way that her defenses are positioned, she is in kind of a rough spot. She is a fragile character. She does not have a tremendous amount of range. She has some power generation, but it's kind of scary. It's She is an interestingly positioned character. I would put her in at a C. I don't think she needs to be better than that. I don't think that she needs many changes. I don't think that we need Clea to be, the next OP thing in the game. I'm fine with her as a C. You're looking at her. She opens up some interesting lines of play for Convocation, but if you're not using those lines, then she's not. So maybe she's in that B to C range. And Mordo, I think, is firmly a B. You
Mm-hmm.
are looking at him in affiliation. I think he belongs in Cabal. I think he belongs in Convocation. His power generation, his dice bonuses. He's a fun character, medium base, medium move. Definitely excels when he's got access to Ironbound books.
Something I would throw him in C if it wasn't for this next thing I'm about to kind of throw out there. Try him in Strucker's Hydra
Oh yeah, that's an interesting
because
place.
because one of the things that Strucker's leadership really kind of struggles with that I don't think people like get at first glance is like, oh yeah, you can heal, but a lot of the times like a character gets an activation and they're at full health, or
Hmm.
like they're not going to have, so like it doesn't help them at all, or they're just going to get dazed. Like there's so many times where there's no middle ground there,
Yeah,
and so having a way to damage yourself and get benefit out of it, and then go ahead and heal that back via the leadership, is some fun shenanigans to have at least.
Does that work? Is it in the right? Is the timing right? Once
Now
per
I'm gonna have
turn,
to
when
go
an
and
enemy
double check
character
myself.
gains a spell once per turn after an attack is made. Yeah, so they're both looks like they're both after the attack, so it should
Yep.
work.
So you can choose
Yeah.
the timing on it, and I'm not cheating. Thank you very much.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep, same window after the attack is resolved. So neat. Oh, that's a really cool interaction then.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we have a very easy A tier to me, and that's X-23.
After my experience at NashCon, where a shocked X-23 ended my Thor on 2 consecutive turns to daze and KO him, I feel that X-23 may be an S tier character, and I'm a little concerned about her. But I love the character, and I don't want to see her change.
Man, she is so similar to Baron Zemo in so many ways.
Yeah.
Doesn't have the charge, does have the healing factor and exceptional healing.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, I could see her go like say, yeah, she's S, maybe drop healing factor down to 1, kind of a thing. Because like I don't think you
Yeah,
want to
maybe.
take away her frenzy opportunity, because like that, or maybe make it cost more expensive, because like she's not spending on power on anything else anyway. I don't know.
I the 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 6 or 7 die builder that she basically has, depending on
Mm-hmm.
if she lands that pierce and
Mm-hmm.
re-rolls into another hit. Like she's that the damage output from her is absolutely amazing. But I mean, she's also it's only 1 die too, so she doesn't really save you from a poor roll, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
roll you roll 6 dice and you get 1 hit on 6 dice, you re-roll into a second hit. Like you're really not doing it. It's not like Zemo where you're just gonna re-roll everything
Yeah,
and be
you
able to
don't
kind
get
of
to
recover at
recover
all.
from the, oh, I got
Right.
1 success, but I can reroll the rest of these. It's like,
Right.
oh, maybe I reroll into a wild and kind of get an effective 3 or something.
Yeah. So eh, it's a little on the rough side still. So maybe it is just an A, but she's definitely the top end of the curve.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you're trying to bring a 3-4 output and you don't care where it's coming from, X-23 should be towards the top of your list.
Yeah, I think her and Zemo are neck and neck for that kind of role of mobile damage dealer. You can't
Yeah.
go wrong with either one of them.
No. And again, no matter the cost and exceptional healing, really
Mm-hmm.
just turn her kit on early and give her a little bit more survivability too.
I will say real quick, because it's something I learned recently. The her strike, uh, basically, if you are on like 0 or 1 power with her and kill somebody with her strike, you don't get to trigger frenzy because the power generation is after the trigger window.
Oh my goodness.
So like that's like one of those things that like people don't realize. So a little public service announcement, like watch your opponent so that they know, make sure that you know when you're playing. Not very often that situation comes up, because she usually keeps her power pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
But if Carnage, her, Angela are in a situation where they don't have the power and are trying to build into the power for it, doesn't work.
Well, learn something new every day.
There you go. And as somebody who has played Shield, I'll let you talk about this next character, and really it's 3 characters: Nick Fury and his Howling Commandos.
Oh my gosh, this character is so much fun. Do yourself a favor and put it on the table. I'm going to give it an honorary A for 2
Ooh.
reasons. Number one, Nick Fury Sr. was played by David Hasselhoff, so you've got some S tier in my heart, like right there. And then on top of that, basically having Medusa's Royal Decree
Mm-hmm.
ability on a 3-threat character
On a
means
50 millimeter base.
yeah, on like it's just so fun. And then you've got other medium bases that are in affiliation with Fury's grunts,
Mm-hmm.
which is also like a fantastic target for not got your back. That the
Yeah.
this model is so much fun. The wild advance, the placing itself and others, it's such a fun model. 10 of 10 would recommend. So I give it an honorary A just because I want you to try it everywhere. But this definitely at least a B.
Probably in that B plus A minus territory pretty safely. I
Yeah.
was thinking A myself anyways. Uh, got your back. Seeing red, whatever their version of it
Mhm.
is a fantastic ability in general. Uh, Having the mobility that these guys can provide because they can pretty reliably, if you have somebody else on a 50 millimeter or large base, can turn one, move up, shoot somebody on the midline, and then catapult the person behind them forward.
Mhm.
Right
Absolutely
out of the
does.
get go, which is fantastic for a character in affiliation like She Hulk,
Right.
and just let her get into the fray very quickly. So there's all sorts of cool things, very splashable in my opinion. This is also all some pretty early takes because he hasn't been out for a full month at this point, so this one may
No.
vary.
He's it's solid. I've honestly, so I've played a handful of games with Nick Fury and the Howling Commandos, and I've never used the spender because it's just so much more economical to just prototype weapons
Hmm.
and move things around and save power for got your back.
Yep, understandable. Next up, we have two that are some of my recent favorites, Baron Strucker and Zola, and I think one goes to A and one goes to B.
I'll defer to you on this one. I have no experience with either of these. I've played against a Zola Strucker team,
Hmm.
and I think that Hydra is going to be a very um, interesting but also very powerful affiliation here for the next little bit. And they're fun, they're neat. I'm curious to see which one you put at an A, which one you put at B.
All right, so I'm throwing Strucker up in A.
Fair.
I like he doesn't have the mobility of Baron Zemo, but man has just about everything else in some way that you want to see it. Uh, Reroll to everybody else within range 2, solid. Range 3 builder that incinerates people, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
A We Are Venom attack for his spender. There have been so many times where I got to heal 3 or 4 damage off of Strucker after exceptional healing saved him. He was at 1 health, and it's like, cool, time for me to hit back. Uh,
Nice.
I have really enjoyed him, and then I'm a little bit biased because I love the leaderships that you can build around, and his leadership is certainly one that you can kind of build around what's going on with him and
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
But even aside from that, just on his own, I think if you're running Red Skull's Hydra, for example, I think he is a 3 that makes it in because he is just a very good 3 threat. And I would not be surprised to see him splash to other places very soon.
Nice. Do you think that there's room for the leadership swap tactic card in a Strucker and New Skull?
Man, it's so tough to me because part of it is like you're wanting that build around leadership, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
not. And Red Skull's leadership really doesn't come into play until round 2,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm not sure if there is a confident enough swap point to
Okay.
say, cool, I want to turn into the status condition attrition style list versus the power generation that Red Skull is bringing, if that makes sense.
I can follow that. Do you think that Red Skull and Strucker wind up in the same roster, and that you're deciding between the two leaderships to kind of like, depending on what your opponent, their roster, and the scenarios are asking you for, or is it just kind of like, I'm going to play Strucker and I'm going to maybe have Red Skull in this roster too?
Yeah, I think whenever you're building a Hydra roster, you have both, and I think all three styles of building are going to be completely viable. I think you
Okay.
can absolutely build the status condition list just around Strucker, and Red Skull's in there too because he's an affiliation 5 threat that's going to whack a punch.
Yeah.
And then, like, I think that there is enough flexibility in those leaderships that you can be like, cool, I'm going to run Red Skull this time, or hey, like if it's lower threat totals, we're gonna run Strucker and have a bunch of 3 threats to rock this 14. Because I also completely random. I think Bob has playing Hydra now all of a sudden thanks to Red Skull.
All right. Nice.
But that's a different thing that we covered last video. And then Zola, I think, is a very solid B. I don't think he's gonna. He has potential to be an A. Again, it's one of those things where like all the games I've had with him have been in Hydra, so I kind of want to get some experimenting going on in other places. Short
Mhm.
move, even on a 50 millimeter base, is still a short move.
Yeah.
But the ability to hand out rerolls, his attacks have like his builder having any attack type and being able to buff that up to 6 dice is really nice. But he's a power hungry character, so he does go into both versions of Hydra really really well. But I think B is the place to keep him for now, kind of alongside what Shuri does.
Yeah, he does seem like a kind of updated Shuri.
Hmm.
Evil updated Shuri.
Yep, no pushes, but some nasty conditions to give out instead.
That's okay. I mean, like I said with Shuri, maybe she pushes the wrong way these days.
Next up, we have Human Torch, not the one we want to see, but the one we got, Jim Hammond.
This was definitely a who for me when it was revealed. I did some research and kind of looked into it, but I've really enjoyed him in Shield. I haven't played him anywhere else, but him and Fury have been in basically every team I've played since they came out, except for
Hmm.
one. And I have really enjoyed him and his dynamics on the table. I'd say that he's a pretty solid B in my opinion. Like
Yep, I
if
can
you're
see
playing
that.
Shield, you really want to bring him. I'm not. I love memeing fantastic things with a new age and
Hmm.
him, but I'm not sure if it's really the card to bring for Shield. And if I don't know, I haven't gotten into Sing yet. I've had some really fun times with it, dropping
Hmm.
those incinerates and doing fun things. But his strength has really been in the asset drop.
Yep, too hot
And
to handle.
yeah, it's just fun and neat. The range 2 aspect of it is huge. No
Yep.
action, range 2.
Yep, no action, and he builds up power pretty well for himself between his ability to. Uh,
Yes.
it's hit and run, right?
He's got hit and run, and
Yeah.
then he gains a power whenever he ends a movement next to someone with incinerate, and then he's got a gainer beam, range 3. So if you can get him in a position where he can beam 2 people, you're gonna almost always be able to
You're
make
gonna
someone drop
net gain
something.
2 power.
Yep, and then you're gonna make them drop something, pick it up, and walk away.
Yeah, all good things. And then, because you are like huge Black Order player, I'm kind of interested on your take for Supergiant.
Supergiant is hard to play. I think that she has a niche that she fits into, but that niche is very, very narrow. She falls into the same kind of camp as Mysterio and Crossbones with that short move, small base,
Hmm.
really hampering her mobility. But the most fun games I have had with Supergiant has been she kind of just makes her way to a point, hopefully turn 1, and then she just kind of stands there for the rest of the game. And if anybody gets too close, she can usually make them regret it.
Hmm.
A range 3 Mystic builder that basically gains her health back
Hmm.
is surprisingly effective for a character that often only takes 1 damage from an attack. Uh, she's a bit of a liability. I do feel like over the course of her design, she was very powerful in one direction and maybe had to be toned down because she was a little bit scary. And I think that she might have, similar to Winter Soldier, how he went a little high on the tuning, she might have gone a little bit low. Like I'd like to see her spender at least be like a sap ability. So like she's basically like you're making a Yahtzee, like a chance at Yahtzee,
Hmm.
but for every power that they're losing, you're getting power back. So you're potentially able to just do it again. It's only a range 2 attack. I don't think that, while it's a very, very powerful ability, it's also like a once in a lifetime kind of trigger.
I'll
So
say it doesn't get power back, does it?
it
It's
does
just
not. No,
yeah,
it,
okay,
it
yeah.
just makes them lose. I'd like to see it. Like if she was going
Oh,
to get a magic wand update, I would like to see her gain the power that they lose so that she gets
ooh,
closer to trying to pull it off again. I think that would give her a lot more fear factor, right? So now she's a character that you don't want to get too close to because she
Hmm.
is going to rip your power off while basically powering herself up to keep taking shots at just ending you in one.
I would totally be down for that. I love that idea. But it sounds like, for the moment at least, C tier is a pretty comfortable place for her to be.
I will call her a C. I don't think that she's a D. She needs a little bit of love. I would love to see her with a medium move, but I don't see that happening either. I mean, however.
Yeah. So all we have left, we're finally there at the end. We've got Red Guardian and Dark Star. Have you
Oh,
had any experience with either of these two?
you know what? I have not played either one of these characters.
Okay.
I have played against both of them because we had a couple of guys that really wanted to do some Winter Guard testing.
Hmm.
Personally, the Winter Guard characters that make me enjoy Winter Guard are not in this first batch.
Hmm.
Like I like these characters more or less, but I want my fat beardy David Harbour uh, Red Guardian,
You want the
not
other
this,
Red Guardian?
not Jim Short's Red Guardian. But I think the Red Guardian's really sneaky good. And I want to try Darkstar in A Force, and I want to try her in Shield as well.
Okay. So from my experience playing it mostly against Red Guardian, I've only got him on the table once. I think he is in that A minus B plus kind of tier that we've made up. So either bottom of A, higher
Yeah.
end of B. He has his own Heroes for Hire style card, which is really nice.
Yes,
Uh,
Communists for Hire is fantastic. I,
yep.
I do love how they made these tactics cards, and they're all like they're like close to something else, but it's like both better and worse at the same time.
Hmm. His shield throw has power generation. Shield slam is very nice, so he has some control, has some
Yeah,
durability if he's not doing his shield slam. Just all in all, a really solid character.
auto
Uh,
push is never to be underestimated.
Nor is auto throw.
Yeah,
Yeah, all good things there. And then I feel like Darkstar is just another version of Clea for what she currently is.
I think that's probably a fair take. I mean, from my lack of experience with both of them,
But
I
they're very similar in what they do. They both have some
mhm.
mobility shenanigans that cost them a
Yes,
little bit too much power for
yes.
everything else they kind of want to do with their kit.
Hmm.
So I think whatever, because I do think that those two characters need some sort of change. I think whatever change that we see is going to be the same for both of them.
I don't know if Darkstar needs a change. I mean, I haven't played her enough to really feel like she's lacking in any way. I'm excited to take a look at her some in places where I think that you can leverage her card. So
Hmm.
she's almost made the cut into the meme shield roster that I'm running
For the energy stuff.
my new age, where I just want to basically get as much as I can out of affiliated energy attacks. And I think that bringing her card lets you kind of get a pseudo bitter rivals going
Hmm.
on that turn. So I'd also like to see her in places where bitter rivals used to be popular, like the Guardians of the Galaxy, where you've
Hmm.
got a lot of energy attacks coming in,
Yeah,
and you're not necessarily taking a lot of energy shots back. So the minus defense dice blanket doesn't really hurt you as much as it hurts them.
that's fair. I don't know. I think maybe seeing her attack turn into a, because right now it's a gainer, so she gets one guaranteed power. But then it's a Doctor Strange style reroll.
Right.
I think that maybe is, I don't know. Give either make that something where it's like a gains power equal to damage dealt, because her dimensional portal really strong,
Mm-hmm.
cost 3 power. Dark Force Barrier, which is basically Doctor Strange's and Cable's defensive buff, uh, and also cannot be advanced, push, or placed by the effects of the attack, is really significant and strong.
Yes.
Maybe lose that part and only make it cost 2. I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's the Eye of Agamotto that gave the reroll skulls to Strange. But I'd like to see her be able to just re-roll the entire pool like he can. I think that would add a bit to what she's bringing to the table.
That's fair. Make it a little bit more of a complete redo if instead of the partial, like, oh, I got a couple skulls re-rolling into
Right.
3 here is meh.
Right. Yeah. Perfect knowledge re-roll all.
Yep.
Regardless of skulls is a very powerful ability.
Yep. Very, very handy on the consistency.
So close.
All right, guys, and that is all of our 3 threats. Nobody ended up making it in D, though I do think that a few characters got close.
I think Mysterio is the closest.
I think Sin and maybe...
Fair, yeah.
Because, like at this point, I think AMG with their the 1.5 update or whatever you want to call it, have done so well because a lot of these characters in C, it's really just like, man, just the smallest tweak, and we don't need Hulk sized reworks on anybody in 3 threat at least.
Agreed.
Yeah, nice to see. Awesome, man. Well, one more time, if you don't mind, share where we can send people your way and what you guys are doing.
All right. You can send people over to the Rogue Agents podcast. That's where I talk the most. And I'm easiest to find on Discord. You can find me under the Finger Guns moniker there. And one of these days I'll get around to writing some articles again, but I haven't done that since the reset back in the past November. So you can find me on Discord. That's the easiest place. Next easiest place to find me is going to be over in the Rogue Agents podcast and or Discord.
Yeah, fantastic Discord there. Really cool painting accountability club that you guys have set up.
Yeah.
I have been called out, mind you, for a month where I didn't even say I was going to paint anything, and you were still on me about not painting anything.
We've amended that now. So because we run an accountability club over at the Rogue Agents, and the idea is just to get people hobbying together. Because while we're all playing a competitive game, and I think almost everybody's a good sport about that almost all the time, that's not the only part of this hobby. There's a lot more to it. And I think that getting us all painting and talking about painting is another great way for us to connect as human beings, not just as gamers. And everybody's little, artistic expression is real fun. But currently, the way that we've got the accountability set up now is that if you don't put in a submission for a goal to paint for the month, for 3 months, then you're going to get kicked out of the club. So no more shame for not submitting a goal, because maybe you're caught up, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, but we've got monthly releases, right? So
yeah,
after 2 months, you should have something to do, or you don't need our help.
There's also that. Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much again for joining me, and thank you all for listening through a solid hour and a half of us prattling on about the absurd number of 3 threats that this game now has, which is a wonderful problem for us as content creators to have.
Heck yeah.
Thank you all for listening, and until next time, keep on gaming.